Okay, I'm going to try to get this Alice in Wonderland little golden book bound today. So, I have my book, and I'm going to put this one together kind of as a kit. I'm making this for my sister, and she wants to actually do the decorating portion and all of that. I talked to her about that this weekend, so I have to sort through and pick out the ones of these that are Alice from this ephemera pack and pull the ones that aren't. And so I will sift through all of that at some point. And then I'll just like paper clip in and whatnot. But I have a couple of plain white envelopes. I have a couple of manila envelopes. I have some cards I might put in and some small envelopes as parts of my signature. I have my binding kit and all of my clips handy. I have a piece of cardboard to make my spine. This is chipboard. It's fairly heavy, so I'm not going to double it up or anything. I'm going to use sports tape on this one instead of duct tape, as you saw me do last time. I still don't have any Tyvek envelopes. Nothing comes in those anymore, so. But the sports tape will work fine. It's made of fabric, so it'll stick better and glue better. I still can't find my FABRICA, so I'm going to go ahead and use my Liquid Fusion this time, because that'll work on anything. I have my bone folder and my scoring block. I have my foam mat for poking my holes. And I have a paper trimmer, of course, and I haven't picked any other papers yet because I don't know how big this is going to be. I think I'm just going to use this little butterfly fabric for the spine because I don't have a tremendous fabric selection. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to preserve the gold edge on my golden books. A lot of people you see end up removing the edge. I want to keep that. So you can see that there are two staples in here. That is what we're going to have to remove. And this should be two sets of basically signatures in this book. So I have one page that's from the back one. But it should be split evenly into two folded sections. So I'm going to get in there with something. You can use a screwdriver or whatever. I have a butter knife here, so I'm going to use that. And I'm going to try and pry the staples up. And it's okay if I go through the back because I am going to cut that entire spine down anyways. So, and I'm actually going to, now that I can see the center of the set, I'm going to take my X-Acto knife before I make that any worse. Oh, and I'm going to cut in between the two sets. So, the trouble is, you never know. These are stapled from the front to the back. Sometimes you'll get one where it's stapled from the back to the front. So, now this signature can come right out. And I'm going to keep the book order in order when I assemble my own signatures. So, this is the back set. And this is the front set. So, I'm going to pull this off the front cover. And I am not going to remove these staples, because if I remove the staples, there's a good chance I'm going to mess up my cover. So all I'm going to do is really fold these down, because these are going to get covered in cardboard and tape and fabric. So as long as they're pretty well flattened out, they can stay. They're not going to affect the binding in any way either. So front cover, back cover. You can run a little bead of glue along the edge here if you want, and try and glue that down further. These are going to get, I want to measure and see how wide one of these is actually, because I can't remember off the top of my head. So they're 6.5-ish. So if I use scrapbook paper, they're going to come up a little short comparatively, but I can if I want, because these all have that little extra edge, and you're really going to want, to trim them down anyways, because otherwise it's going to hang over a little bit. So I'm probably going to take a good 1/4 of an inch off the edge of this book. Again, that way they will fit better once they're bound inside again, because the signatures are going to get bigger, so they're going to push out a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this piece of chipboard to, I'm going to use my spine at, I think, 2 inches on this one again, because I'm going to add quite a bit of bulk to it, and I'm going to assume she's going to add quite a bit of bulk to it. So I'm going to cut my cardboard to 4 inches. And that should be my 4-inch mark right there. Just going to double check. Yep. And then I'm going to cut it top to bottom, exactly the same height as the book itself. So I'm just going to line it up. I'm also going to cut a 2-inch template for the spine. And that I'm just going to cut from a piece of cardstock. Okay. So this will be my template. I'm going to call this the top, this the bottom, and I'm going to, because I'm going to be using smaller envelopes, that's going to be my center that way. And this is actually fairly heavy cardstock, so I'm just going to go ahead and use my bone folder for the long folds. So I'm going to score it at 1 inch for the center and 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch where my signatures are going to go. So, and I'm also going to draw a line. See, I should trim these down this way too, because otherwise they're fully top to bottom. But you know what? I think I'm going to be okay with that being fully top to bottom. I'm going to let that ride. So I'm going to put a dot dead center. And then I want to grab one of those smaller cards. Because if I use these, well, you know what? If I put these in, I'm either going to put them towards the bottom a little bit or towards the top. So they'll still get stitched through in two places because I don't really want them just dead center loose. So I am still going to punch holes in the center one, even though I'm not going to use them for the binding, because I'm going to use the center to punch the holes in the signature. So I'm just going to bring my bindings down an inch. That is my template made. And for my binding, I'm going to score at 1 inch. And at the 3-inch mark, because that'll give me 2 inches in the center. And that'll allow me to fold that. Okay. So I don't need my template just yet. I'm going to move that out of the way. I don't need this envelope right now. And I don't need the book pages right now. What I'm going to do is, this is going to get attached. And I'm probably going to glue that down and make gold. And I'm going to get this lined up. Keeping in mind that those staples, you're going to have to kind of push into the cardboard a little bit. And if I had deeper clips that would hold over where the staples are, it would be better, but I don't. So, but get it lined up, get it clipped, and wipe off any excess you might have. I actually did pretty good. I'm probably going to come over the edge of the cardboard just a tiny bit, but not a whole lot. So I'm going to put this aside to dry. While it's drying some, I'm going to work on my signatures. So I'm going to move this out of my way and be ready. Okay, so for my signatures, I grabbed out 8 scrapbook papers. And I'm going to leave them the full 12 by 12 width, but I need to figure out what my height is going to be. And that's going to be close to or just under the height of the actual book. So, and that is almost exactly 8 inches. So I'm going to start by cutting them down to the 8 inches. Once they're cut, I'm going to go back to the bone folder, and I'm going to keep these, and I'm going to try and cut some just squares and tags and things to include with the kit. Okay, so I have my pages. I have the book pages, and I have some envelopes and things. I'm going to use in each signature. One of the manila clasp envelopes and one of the white large envelopes. So with these, I'm going to fold them, but they're each going to get a slightly different treatment after that. So and the two sides don't have to be exactly even by any means. I'm actually going to take my scissors and pre-cut this flap. That way it is two completely separate envelopes, because these ones are going to be upright, so you'll be able to tuck things in here or even decorate the flap with paper, whatever she chooses to do. With these, basically exact same thing. These are like 9. But that should still be under the 6 when it's folded. So these she can actually tuck a treasure in and seal. And on this one, what I'm going to do is maintain the integrity of the end, but I'm going to slice open the top. Okay, so this one I did slightly better on. It's got a little pocket now. This one I tore a little bit, but little pocket. So I'm gonna slide this out of the way, because I believe I'm done with that. And I have some other just cute little cards and baby envelopes that I'm thinking about including. Kind of, if you use a baby envelope, you may want to use it as the center of your signature, because otherwise you're just going to have a flap in one page and the envelope itself in the other, which can be kind of awkward. So if I choose to use those, I'm going to use them there. This you would obviously have to cover, but these work cute. And then some slightly bigger ones. So I don't think I'm going to use all of these. I think I'm just going to use these two. No, these two and these two. And I think I'm going to include these as the centers. So I'm going to put together my signatures. So I actually kind of feel like I could stuff these sets a little fuller if I wanted to, but I think I'm going to leave them alone. They're going to sit about a 1/2 inch in, obviously, to my 2-inch spine. So like this one will sit here, but that'll give it plenty of room to open, and she can decorate it as much as she wants. So that's going to be the first set. Signature. I have no idea why I do that. That is so hard for me. So that one is good. I'm gonna move on and do the second one. Okay, so this is the part where we take our template and we put the holes in it. And then we put the holes in our thing. So I'm going to take my awl and punch my holes. To do the holes in my signatures, I'm going to fold this in half, and I'm going to make sure top is top and bottom is bottom. I'm going to fold them in there like they are a part of the signature. And you can do this sitting inside a piece of a book that you've removed, or you can do it like I'm doing it over something that you can push into. But you want to make sure you go through all of your layers and not into your table below, and give it a good hole. And if you move your template, scooch it back in, make sure you're still on track. So I'm going to go grab my cover again and see if that's ready for the next step. Okay, so this is dry on the outside, so I should be good to move on a little bit here. It might not be thoroughly dry yet, but it's dry enough for the next step. Do a little overflow glue. So this is where I'm going to come in with my tape. Now this is where if I could find my Fabri-Tac, it would stick really well because it is fabric. But that's going to go like that, and my two signatures are going to go in here. Again, I could have probably made a third signature out of this or these fatter, but I think I'm okay with this. And I do like how far in it came. This one fits well. This one's a little clunky right now, but I think once it's snugged in, it'll be sucked in tighter, so it's going to be fine. And again, I'm just going to use this butterfly. I feel like it's okay because of the cover. So I'm just going to use this butterfly material. And this is just an actual piece of crafter square material. Okay, so I have my fabric cut somewhat. I'm going to trim it up a little bit more, I think. Okay, good enough. Let me get my, I'm going to use my liquid fusion again. And I'm going to just get my fabric laid into place. Okay, so book folds, that's the important part. Like I said, I'm going to run some kind of ribbon along this edge right here and this edge right here, and probably to cover these seams. So I'm going to let this sit and dry for a little bit, and I'm going to pick out a ribbon. Okay, so I think I'm going to use this green for the outside. I think this will look cute right here. Just going to clean up these little fray spots. Because I'm actually going to apply the ribbon with double-sided tape. I'm just going to use the one that fits it the closest. And that's what I'm going to use to stick the ribbon on after this is dry a bit. So I'm going to use the green on the outside. I think I'm going to use this pretty purple that I grabbed on the inside. And I may run just a little shimmer of gold over, maybe. Okay, so this is dry enough to, it's not fully dry, especially on this side because it was face down, but it's dry enough to move on. So. Fine for now. So we come back with our template. And our pokey board. I'm going to lay this out top to bottom. Take my awl. We don't need the middle holes this time. I like to poke in from the outside. I think it gives it, keeps it cleaner on the outside. And one more. So, we have our holes set now. That's all we needed our template for. This is another template, probably basically the same, but I'm gonna grab my waxed thread. You can use anything you want to bind. I like the waxed thread. You're gonna need 2 to 3 full lengths per side. I cut 3 just to be on the safe side. Two and a half would probably be enough, but I like to give myself a little bit of a buffer. And you're going to grab one of your needles. gonna grab like a middle-sized one this time. I used the biggest last time, but I'm gonna see if I can get a slightly smaller one threaded. Okay. And I like to work the back signature first. So this is the front one. And this is the back one. You're going to go through your center hole first. And you can do this all relatively loose to start. Once you're done, you can tighten it all up. So come right out, pull through, leave yourself a bit of a tail for now. And then you're going to go back in the top hole. And then you're going to go through the top of your signature. And you're going to go all the way down to the bottom. Make sure if you have an envelope or something in the middle, you're straddling both sides through your signature and through your cover hole. So then you're going to go back into your center, trying not to push it through where you're already threaded, because that'll mess up the integrity of your stitching, or your actual thread itself, rather. Okay. And then pull it through. This is just a standard 3-hole binding method. So I now have a tail on either side of my center. That's what I prefer. Make sure your back is all pulled tight. Make sure your signature is all pulled tight. Like, that's not good. Figure out which string you need to pull to tighten up that loop. But you want everything tight. That's because I went through. See, this is loose somewhere. So I'm going to pull that down tight at the bottom again, and then pull that last thread tight again. And now it should be all tightened up and nice. So I like to tie my knot right around that center thread. I like to double knot. And then I like to cross under it one more time, one at the top, one at the bottom. And then I'm going to knot one more time. So there's my back signature in, whoops. You can see it's snug right to the cover. And we will grab our other cord and repeat the exact same thing for the front signature. So lots of room to embellish in here. Like I said, probably a little too much, but that's okay. I could have probably made the binding a little bit smaller on this one. I think I'm going to go with, if this is big enough, purple for my tie. So let's just do a little flip through of the blank pages. And this one can get closed with stuff in it. Just a note card. Make sure the flaps open on my envelopes. And this can get stuff sealed in it or flap decorated. So this one, I'm going to rip a little bit so it can open. This will have to get covered, but I'll show you in the ephemera pack. There are some blank papers, not blank papers, some decorative papers that would fit perfectly over this. Same with this. And this one can just get loaded from the inside. So that's the first signature, and the second one opens okay. This I might not love side by side, but it's not the worst. This one should have a top load opening. I actually love the way these colors ended up together throughout this. And you could load it and seal it or just decorate it and tuck little things away. So, there we go. That is just the assembly. Keeping your, I'm going to trim these down when this is fully dry, by the way. Your assembly of a little golden book junk journal, keeping this together, keeping your gold intact.